Why breaking bad habits is so hard and what helps. Welcome to Rethink Your Perspectives blog, your trusted space for helping busy professionals stop feeling busy by building the habits, focus and consistency that lead to lasting productivity without burnout. Today we're discovering why breaking bad habits can feel so difficult and learning practical ways to understand your triggers, replace old patterns and build better habits. So get some weekly growth. You can find the link on the website or in the blog on the website. And we hope that you get some benefit from these posts. We would love to hear your thoughts. Don't hesitate to like, share and comment at the links at the bottom. So why breaking bad habits is so hard and how to make it easier. Have you ever promised yourself, right, that's it, I'm not doing that again? I know I have. Facebook doom scrolling, anyone? Perhaps you were going to stop checking your phone every 5 minutes, stop procrastinating on important work, stop snacking when you were stressed or saying yes to everything, quit working through your breaks, stop staying up later than you planned. And then sometimes, only hours later, you found yourself doing exactly the same thing again. It can be incredibly frustrating. When we struggle with breaking bad habits, it's easy to make the problem personal. We tell ourselves we need more discipline, more motivation, or more willpower. But habits are rarely that simple. Most unhelpful habits have been repeated because, at some point, they gave your brain something it wanted. Relief, comfort, stimulation, distraction, certainty, or an easier route through a difficult moment. And that's why breaking bad habits is often much easier when you stop trying to fight the behaviour and start understanding the pattern behind it. Why is breaking bad habits so difficult? A habit is a behaviour your brain has learnt to repeat in response to a particular situation or trigger. At first, there may have been some conscious choice involved. Over time, repetition makes the behaviour increasingly familiar. Eventually, you can find yourself reaching for your phone, opening your inbox, avoiding the difficult task, or grabbing the biscuit before you've really considered what you're doing. That automatic quality is useful when the habit helps you. You do not want to carefully think through every stage of brushing your teeth each morning. Your brain saves effort by turning repeated actions into familiar routines. The problem is that your brain can automate unhelpful behaviour too. So breaking bad habits is not simply a matter of knowing better. You can understand perfectly well that the behaviour is not helping you and still repeat it because the old pathway is familiar, quick and rewarding. Recognising that removes some of the judgment and gives you something much more useful to work with, the habit itself. Your bad habit is probably doing something for you. Calling something a bad habit can make it sound completely pointless. Usually it's not. The behaviour may cause problems in the long term, but it often provides something useful in the short term, and that distinction matters. The short-term reward keeps the habit alive. Imagine you're putting off a difficult piece of work. You know procrastinating will make tomorrow harder, yet checking social media feels appealing. Why? Because scrolling gives you an immediate reward. You escape the discomfort of starting. The long-term cost is increased pressure. The short-term reward is relief. Your brain is very interested in that immediate reward. The same pattern can appear elsewhere. Working through lunch might make you feel productive or in control. Saying yes when you're already overloaded may help you avoid disappointing somebody. Comfort eating can provide a moment of pleasure when you are stressed. Repeatedly checking emails may make you feel as though you are keeping on top of things, even if it's pulling you away from your priorities. If you want to change the habit, ask, what does this behaviour give me right now? And the answer often explains why the habit has survived. Stress and low energy also make old habits more appealing. Your habits do not exist separately from the rest of your life. When you're rested, calm and focused, making an intentional choice is usually easier. When you are tired, overwhelmed or stressed, your brain is more likely to choose the familiar option. This is one reason people can maintain new habits beautifully for a few weeks and suddenly struggle when work becomes busy or life throws something unexpected at them. The habit has not necessarily failed, your available energy has changed. That is why sustainable productivity needs to consider more than time. Your energy and focus affect your ability to interrupt an automatic pattern and make a different choice. Sometimes the best way to tackle an unwanted habit is not to push harder. It's to ask whether tiredness, stress or overwhelm is making the old behaviour harder to resist. Why willpower alone rarely works. Willpower can help you interrupt a habit occasionally. It is far less reliable as your entire strategy. If the chocolate is sitting beside your desk, your phone is constantly lighting up, your inbox is open all day, and your old habit is easy to perform, you're asking yourself to resist the same cue repeatedly. That takes mental energy. Eventually, especially on a busy or difficult day, the easier option is likely to win. Instead of relying entirely on willpower, change the conditions around the habit. If your phone distracts you, put it somewhere you cannot automatically reach it. If you snack because food is always visible, change what is within easy reach. If emails constantly interrupt focused work, close the inbox and decide when you will check it. Good habit change is often less about becoming more disciplined and more about making the better choice easier. How to understand the habit before trying to change it. Before trying to stop an unwanted habit, spend a little time studying it. Think of yourself as a curious observer rather than a frustrated critic. So first, notice the trigger. What usually happens immediately before the habit? It might be a certain time, a particular place, a notification, boredom, stress, tiredness, an uncomfortable task, a particular person or situation. The trigger is useful because it tells you where the habit begins. You may discover, for example, that you do not check your phone randomly. You check it whenever you reach a difficult point in your work. Now you have something specific to change. Second, identify the behavior. Describe exactly what you do. Avoid vague labels such as, I procrastinate too much. Instead, when I become unsure how to continue, I open my emails. Or, when I feel tired after lunch, I start scrolling. Specific behavior is easier to work with than a general criticism of yourself. Thirdly, work out what you are really getting from it. So finally, identify the reward. Ask, what feels better immediately after I do this? Perhaps you gain relief, stimulation, comfort, connection, or a sense of achievement. Once you understand what your brain is seeking, you can start finding another way to meet that need. How to make breaking bad habits easier. Knowing why the habit exists is useful. The next step is changing the pattern. So you need to replace rather than simply remove. Removing a habit can leave an empty space. If scrolling gives you a mental break, simply banning yourself from scrolling does not remove your need for a break. Try replacing the routine instead. When you notice yourself reaching for your phone because your brain needs a pause, stand up and walk away from your screen for 2 minutes. If you procrastinate because the task feels overwhelming, replace avoidance with 5 minutes on the smallest possible first step. If you automatically say yes, replace the immediate answer with, let me check and come back to you. You are not ignoring the need behind the habit, you are finding a more helpful response. Make the old habit harder. So adding a little friction can interrupt automatic behavior. Log out of distracting websites. Delete the app from your phone. Keep treats somewhere less visible. Put your phone in another room during focused work. Remove notifications. Do not keep the television remote beside the chair if you're trying to read in the evening. You do not need to make the habit impossible, you simply want to create enough of a pause for your conscious brain to catch up. And then make the better habit easier. At the same time, reduce friction around the behavior you want. Put your walking shoes by the door. Leave your water bottle on your desk. Open the document you need before finishing work the previous day. Keep your book beside your bed. Write your get done list before your working day begins. Your environment can either constantly ask you to make good decisions or quietly support those decisions for you. Choose support wherever possible. And always start smaller than you think. Replacing an established habit with something demanding rarely works well. Keep the new behavior tiny. 5 minutes of focused work. 1 glass of water. A 2-minute walk. 1 pause before answering. 1 page instead of a whole chapter. Your first goal is not to create the perfect replacement. It's to practice a different response often enough that it becomes easier to choose. How your identity can keep an old habit going. Sometimes an old habit is reinforced by the way you describe yourself. I'm just a procrastinator. I've never been organised. I'm terrible at routines. I always give up. Repeated often enough, those descriptions can start to feel like facts rather than old stories. So try separating your identity from your behaviour. Instead of, I'm a procrastinator, try, I have a habit of avoiding tasks when they feel unclear. That is a very different statement. One sounds like who you are, the other describes a pattern you can change. You can then begin building evidence for a different identity. I am someone who starts before I feel completely ready. I'm someone who protects my focus. I pause before saying yes. Your self-talk does not magically change your behaviour by itself, but it can either support the direction you're moving in or continually drag you back towards the old story. What to do when you do slip back into an old habit? Because at some point you probably will, and that is normal. You may have a stressful week, sleep badly, lose your routine, or simply make the old choice. The important part is what happens next. One return to an old habit does not erase your progress. The danger comes when you turn one slip into, well, I've ruined it now. That thinking can turn one difficult moment into several days or weeks. Instead, ask, what triggered the old behavior? What did I need in that moment? What would help me respond differently next time? Then return to the new pattern as soon as you reasonably can. Consistency is not never getting knocked off course. Consistency is becoming better at coming back. Breaking habits without adding more pressure. If you're already busy and overwhelmed, habit change should not become another huge personal development project. Choose one pattern, observe it, make one small adjustment. Perhaps you put your phone in another room for 30 minutes. Maybe you introduce a pause before saying yes. You could take a 5-minute walk instead of scrolling when your energy dips. Or perhaps you decide to close your emails until you've completed your first important task. Then notice what happens. Does the new behavior help? Does it meet the same need? What needs adjusting? Habit change works better when you treat it as an experiment rather than a test that you can pass or fail. Final thoughts. Change the pattern, not your personality. So why is breaking bad habits so hard? Because the behavior is familiar, often automatic, and usually rewarding in some way. You are not simply trying to stop an action, you are interrupting a pattern your brain has learned through repetition. That takes awareness, patience, and practice. Start by understanding what triggers the habit and what reward it gives you. Then look for a better behavior that meets the same need. Make the old habit slightly harder, make the new habit easier. Keep your first change small enough to repeat. And most importantly, stop treating an unhelpful habit as evidence that there is something wrong with you. Productivity is not forcing yourself into perfect behavior. It's about creating habits and systems that help you direct your energy, protect your focus, and keep making consistent progress without burning yourself out. Choose one habit you would like to change, and then ask, what is this habit doing for me, and what could I do instead? That question is a much better starting point than simply telling yourself to stop. If this article has helped you understand your habits differently, you can explore more articles in the Rethink Your Perspective Knowledge Centre. Join me for a free What Matters Wednesday productivity reset across my socials, or get in touch to find out how coaching can help you build habits that support your work, well-being, and long-term goals. To your success, Jaiye. Rethink Your Perspective.